It's been a few weeks since News 3 broke the story about this man, John Blanchard, a Virginia Beach pastor.
He's one of more than a dozen men from Virginia and Maryland arrested in a sting in Chesterfield County related to solicitation of prostitution involving minors. Well, recently, John Blanchard made a court appearance in Chesterfield County.
News 3 investigator Zach Dahlheimer joining us now in the studio, continuing our coverage on this story as well as human trafficking.
Yeah, that's right. And this whole story got the I-Team to look at prostitution, solicitation involving minors, as well as human trafficking. Now, I talked with law enforcement and local groups here in Hampton Roads who are keeping a finger on the pulse on how prevalent human trafficking is here at home.
We're going to hold you accountable.
A message from police in Chesterfield County after 17 men from Virginia and Maryland were arrested in a two-day sting operation in Chesterfield County tied to soliciting prostitution involving minors.
For many of them, they got the surprise of their life.
One of the men arrested, John Blanchard, who at the time served as pastor of the Rock Church in Virginia Beach.
Each of our 17 people that were arrested thought that they were chatting with an underage minor, when in fact they were actually talking to one of our special victims detectives.
Louth says police frequently monitor sites where this type of activity is found.
Is this social media we're talking about? Is this the dark web that we're referring to?
I'd say that it's probably a little bit of a combination of both.
Blanchard was charged with felony solicitation of prostitution and use of a vehicle to promote prostitution.
We consider that to be child trafficking because a minor cannot consent to sex. Yeah, it's one of the arms of human trafficking is, when minors are put out there to do sex acts. It's definitely one of the worst things that we see.
After breaking the story, News 3 took a deep dive into human trafficking at large. A recent case involving a Norfolk man, Lee Anthony Winston, was convicted by a federal jury on sex trafficking and fraud charges. According to prosecutors, from March through May last year, Winston trafficked 2 women in Norfolk and coerced them into engaging in commercial sex. They also say he used a combination of false promises of love and protection, threats and violence, including beatings and pointing a firearm at the women to gain compliance. Winston's sentencing is set for next March and faces anywhere from 20 years to life in prison.
It is really hidden in plain sight.
Robin Gauthier is the executive director of Samaritan House, a local group tackling the issue by helping trafficking victims and starting the Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force. She and others have been keeping tabs on the issue since 2016.
There was an uptick happening in Hampton Roads, and we could all see more human trafficking occurring than we liked.
Since the start of the task force, there have been 365 investigations and 273 confirmed victims. Gauthier tells me of those cases, 69 have been minors. At Samaritan House, they've seen 203 victims. Only 18 have been foreign nationals.
These are people here in the United States that are being forced by fraud or coercion to do sex work.
Samaritan House officials say Virginia recently ranked 15th when it comes to human trafficking in all the United States. Gauthier also tells me she thinks Hampton Roads is a hotspot for human trafficking, with a lot of military and hotels and motels in major cities throughout the area. She also thinks our local highways could also be a factor.
One of the elements of human trafficking to not get caught is to move the victims around. Sometimes we're one of those stop-off areas. And so we have seen cases that have gone up and down the East Coast or nationwide, but it's very difficult to prosecute because they only stay around for maybe a weekend or 2 or 3, and then they're gone and they're moving to another city and taking the victims with them.
She says of the child victims they've helped, they've been runaways.
A lot of homeless and runaways is the #1 cases of human trafficking, children leaving home because maybe they're being sexually assaulted at home, maybe they're not getting along, they're having problems at home or in school, and so they're ending up running away and they're homeless. And that's, a predator will see that vulnerability and may try to give that person food, clothing, shelter, lots of nice things, even pets, using that as a form of control, saying if you don't complete this number of sex acts for me, I'll hurt or kill that pet or take it away.
But Samaritan House is taking action with groundbreaking set in January on this property in Virginia Beach, aimed at helping trafficked youth in Hampton Roads, providing medical help, education, and counseling.
We're real excited to be able to build something to fill a gap that is so needed. There's just not a great location to bring victims to that you rescue that are minors.
So that is so alarming. What are some of the potential signs to look out for human trafficking?
So Samaritan House officials say a couple of things. If you see a large group of people, say, going in and out of an Airbnb or hotel room, different people especially, that look suspicious. Also, if you see a child come up to you, they're disoriented in any way, they're maybe asking, well, how did I get here? You know, where am I at? Just really kind of any confusing state is really something to look for as well. And of course, we have a lot of resources from Samaritan House as well as other human trafficking resources, including hotlines right now with this story on WTKR.com.
Yeah, hard to believe that stuff is happening right under our noses, right here in Hampton Roads.
Very shocking indeed.
Yeah, it is. Thanks.